republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Alt, Mr. Beistel, Mr. Carson,
Here.
Mr. Fry, Mr. Polakowski,
Here.
Mr. Porter, Mrs. Rhodes, here, Mrs. Smith, here, Mrs. Love.
Here.
Let it be noted that Mr. Porter and Mr. Fry had called and told me they would not be present this evening.
Citizens' comments.
Jan Kiefer.
Good evening. I'm Jan Kiefer, 628 Homestead Avenue. I'm going to speak about the wellness policy that we're posting tonight. I question who drafted this policy and when it was drafted, and I certainly want my name off of it. In the interest of time, I'm going to leave 3 factors off the table tonight, but any of these 3 factors I'm really ready to go to the mat on arguing and holding my position. The state of the health of the children in our school and in our country, I can give you the data. It's bad news, and it's basically a crime against humanity. I'm not trying to be over-exaggerating. The financial cost of this disease in medical care and in loss of performance is bankrupting America. And the third thing off the table tonight is legitimacy of the oversight government agencies, the FDA, etc. It's just overt corporate-controlled oversight that you're working under. So my question there tonight, are you elected officials playing for the nanny state, or are you going to be autonomous, oath-adhering, and using information you deem most credible? Throughout the wellness policy, I'm sorry, the light's not good. Throughout the wellness policy, where am I now? There's an underlining structure, and it's that there are federal and state requirements, established nutritional guidelines, and State Board of Education curriculum regulations and academic standards. Compliance with law and policies. This is sort of what it's built on, and these criteria are all rubber stamps for the government/industry, and they're contrary to available evidence today. So Southmoreland is not living up to the obligations that you state in your policy. Wellness committees shall update and modify this policy as needed based on as technologies emerge and new federal, state guidelines and standards are issued. When there's new health, science, and information, you have to react. The Wellness Committee shall review and consider evidence-based strategies and techniques in establishing goals for the nutrition, education, and promotion. Those are coming out of your policy. Consistent nutrition messaging shall be demonstrated. I'm pulling out your policy again. School staff avoiding eating less healthy food items in front of students. Food and beverages healthy are offered and sold at athletic events and dances. Will be encouraged to offer healthy alternatives in addition to whatever they call additional or a traditional fare. I would call out the wellness police on this. No more sneaking behind the curtain here to get your chips and cookies. No more sodas up on the stage. I think we should take down the soft drink signs on the scoreboards. Per your policy. There's no mention in your policy of electromagnetic field pollution, artificial lighting, screen eye, recycled air, fumigation, mold remediation agents, cleaning agents, forced sitting for long periods of time, sports head injuries, excessive testing induced anxiety, or even the global impact of your policies. Priorities for Southmoreland have to change for the sake of the voiceless children. I don't care a bit about the test scores, a point or two up, a few thousand in the budget, or your far-fetched security fetish that you're on right now. Systems of child health maintenance is broken. The public education system can be a perfect platform to fix it. You either stop believing these corrupt industries and government agencies, or you don't, and we continue with the data that you're producing. Bad politics, bad economics, have resulted in sick children. Southmoreland is bleeding healthy bodies just as it's bleeding dollars. Your house is on fire, and the wellness committee is something in name only. You're akin to throwing a bucket of water on a house that's burning down when you need to call a general alarm. So let's evolve rapidly. And let's go to a preventative versus a symptom model, and let student health be for performance. Let student health performance be your measuring stick.
Thank you. Special voting agenda item. Resolution approving preliminary general fund budget.
Southmoreland School District resolution approving preliminary general fund budget and notice authorizing referendum exceptions. Resolved by the Board of School Directors of Southmoreland School District as follows. The proposed preliminary budget for the general fund of the school district for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, with expenditures of $32,398,092 and revenues of $32,398,094, and the use of unassigned fund balance of $0, and the proposed tax rates necessary to fund the above are as follows. Westmoreland County subdivision of this district, 93.8870 mills. The Fayette County subdivision of this district, 17.6625 mills, both of which exceed the index on Form PDE 2028 as presented to the school board, is adopted as the preliminary general fund budget for the school district general fund for the fiscal year 2019-2020. The administration and school board will continue review of budget components, and the preliminary general fund budget may be revised prior to adoption of the final general fund budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. The business manager shall file the PDE 2028 preliminary general fund budget form and related proposed tax rate increases with the Pennsylvania Department of Education no later than February 25, 2019, which is 85 days prior to the preliminary election day. Number 2, the Act 1 index applicable to the school district as calculated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education is 3.1%. The preliminary general fund budget proposal assumes that the school district will receive approval for use of one or more Act 1 real estate tax referendum exceptions and/or seek a referendum to exceed the index, whether for items claimed for referendum exceptions or generally, but the approval to seek the referendum would be by further vote of this board. The school district shall take all steps required to obtain approval for the referendum exceptions contemplated in the preliminary general fund budget required to obtain approval for use of one or more Act 1 real estate tax referendum exceptions. The school district shall take all steps required to obtain approval for the referendum exceptions contemplated in the preliminary general fund budget, including advertising once in a newspaper of general circulation and placing on a school district internet website Act 1 referendum exception notice in substantially the form presented to the school board and attached hereto as an exhibit, both of which notice advertisements must occur at least 7 days before submission of the application for referendum exceptions. The deadline for which submission is March 7th, 2019, but preferably sooner, which makes the publication deadline no later than February 28th, 2019, but preferably sooner, consistent with at least 7 days advertisement. Number 3, the school district shall continue to make the preliminary general fund budget available for public inspection and shall make the proposed final general fund budget in its then current form available for public inspection at least 20 days before the date scheduled for adoption of the final general fund budget on June 27, 2019. Number 4, the business manager and superintendent are authorized and directed to present plans to reduce the preliminary general fund budget expenditures at a voting meeting at 7:00 p.m. and we will need to provide a date for that. And the secretary is authorized and directed to advertise therefore, if not a previously scheduled voting meeting, and the treasurer is authorized to pay. So we'll need to set a date.
Do we need to do that before we make the motion?
Do you want to propose a date, Mr. Manager?
We are looking at that.
We can initially have some information next week if you want, or if you want to wait till.
No, let's do it next week.
Okay. I would propose next week, next Thursday's board meeting, that we can start proposing preliminary information.
All right, that's already an advertised voting meeting,
Yes, sir.
so that'll be,
That would be the 21st, February 21st.
All right. Do we have a motion? Second? Second. Mr. Beistel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Beistel?
Yeah.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes? Yes. Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Motion carries 6 with 3 absent.
Citizens' comments on this. Do I have to go back now? First, do we need to ask for them?
Citizens come now. So they have an opportunity, they have the opportunity to come up and speak to that, right? Citizen comment?
for the other resolution that you
Yes.
wanted, yes, you have
Yes.
to say what the resolution is, and give them a chance to comment on it.
Citizens' comment.
So any citizens' comments on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll move on. We're going to adjourn from our special voting meeting.
Oh, wait, doesn't he have one?
Pardon?
Do you want to vote on something tonight about the approval of funding for the state legislature?
No.
Oh, from the IU. You're going to do that next week.
Yeah, we'll do that next
You're going
week.
to do it next week?
Yeah.
well,
Okay, all right.
Motion to adjourn? Mr. Beistel, second.
Second.
Mr. Polakowski. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we're going to enter our discussion meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Auld? Mr. Beistel? Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Fry? Mr. Polakowski?
Here.
Mr. Porter? Mrs. Rhodes? Mrs. Smith? Here. Mrs. Love?
Here. Citizens' comments?
I have none.
Minutes, January board minutes?
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the January 10th, January 17th, and January 24th, 2019 school board meeting minutes.
Business and Finance, January 2019 Fund Accounting Check Summary.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the January 2019 fund accounting check summary.
Revised December 2018 Treasurer's Report.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the revised December 2018 treasurer's report.
January 2019 Board Summary.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the January 2019 board summary report.
We'll be giving board reports, superintendent's information,
I will provide that next week.
solicitor's information,
I'll provide that next week.
old business, Realtor extension letter for Roughdale.
The board will be asked to consider extending the deadline for the selection of a realtor and the listing of the Roughdale property until the April 25th, 2019 board voting meeting. This action is necessary due to the acquisition of a strip of ground at the Roughdale site.
New business, wellness policy.
The board will be asked to consider the posting of the wellness policy, Policy 246, for 30 days.
Overnight trip for regional band students.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of 3 of our band students which have advanced from district band to region band. Students Shelby Bryant, Quay Akins, and Dylan Opalinsky have advanced to competitive section of the ensemble, which will take place at Plumboro High School Wednesday, February 21st, 2019 through Friday, February 23rd, 2019, which culminates in a concert.
Step Up Southmoreland School District Resolution.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the 2019 Step Up Southmoreland School District Resolution presented by the WIU 7.
New Story Tuition Agreement.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of a tuition agreement with New Story for the remainder of the 2018-2019 school year for a student.
E-rate.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of E-rate letter of agency for the funding year 2019-2020.
Awarding of bids for diesel fuel.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of awarding the bid for diesel fuel for the 2019-2020 school year per the school district's quantity request to Gutman Energy, whom the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium for Fuels has identified as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting or equaling specifications for diesel fuel at a fixed rate of $2.0426 per gallon.
Awarding of bids for gasoline.
The board will be asked to consider the approval to award bids for gasoline for the 2019-2020 school year per the school district's quantity request to Petroleum Traders, whom the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium for Fuel has identified as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting or equaling specifications for gasoline 87 octane at a fixed rate of $1.7286 per gallon.
Personnel. Day-to-day substitute.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of Douglas Aller as a day-to-day custodial substitute on an as-need basis for the 2018-2019 school year. Clearances are up to date.
E-rip.
The Board of School Directors will be asked to accept the retirement notifications of the following members of the teaching staff with regrets and acknowledges and accepts their eligibility for the Early Retirement Incentive Plan for Teachers 2019. And those teachers would be Sheila Boots, Jill Han, Donna Schrum, Kathy Thompson, Denise Saunders, Mike Saunders, Chuck Britton, and Darcy Pallone.
Retirement of LS Classroom Assistant.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the retirement with regrets of Shirley Stitt, Learning Support Classroom Assistant, at the conclusion of the 2018-2019 school year.
Assistant Baseball Coach Candidate.
The board will be asked to consider Vaughn Hempfield as the assistant baseball coach recommended by Mr. Al Govern for the 2018-2019 school year.
New bus drivers.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of adding Michelle Wassel and Paul Wassel to the list of drivers for Quest Transit. Clearances are current and on file.
Citizens' comments.
Jan Kiefer. So this is a discussion period, right? And so the public comes forward, they put the subject in front of you, and I guess next week we're going to discuss the wellness policy, or you guys have a little cabal in the back room with an executive session. It's just sort of frustrating, and I've been doing this for years now on this issue, and it's like watching paint dry with you guys, and I'd like to remind the audience that they could all come up here and they could bring the discussion to the floor. As long as we're given the silence treatment here, you can just expect that nothing's going to change here. You're going to have your pretend committees, I'm not sure what anything's legitimate on this issue. And, where are the individuals here? I just don't really get it. If you want to go to the issues and argue them out, what's the forum that's going to be that? Is it going to be this committee that meets once every year? I don't know if it's met in the last 5 years that I've been up here coming. Is it going to be at the discussion meeting next month? Is it going to be next week before you vote on it? What are we posting here, Dave? Where did this document come from? Is it just a cut and paste from some agency or some other school district? Has it changed in the last 5 years? Am I missing something here? Am I coming up here and campaigning on this year in and year out before most of you people were here? And the answer is, look at your papers and look in the room, and everyone sits back there and does nothing about it. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe my statistics are wrong. Let's have that discussion right now. Has anyone got anything? Anyone in the room?
Motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a good evening.